There's a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, a lot of confusion about robotaxi pricing, specifically with Cybercab. But overall, we're going to look at someone who's put together quite the model. It is Cern Basher is joining me. We're going to look at his model and ask some poking questions to find out if these numbers are real or crazy or both. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futurosa. Good morning, Cern. Good to see you again. We were
Good
going to
morning, Brian.
record this on Wednesday, but my laptop was in a mood. It was in a mood. So we finally did get that footage all sorted out. That's also helpful. So looking at your model here, we've got this. I don't know how much of it you want to go over. I was thinking we would skip the packages part because we haven't heard as much about that. We can call that icing on the cake. But what we're
We
uh,
should talk about that though, Brian, because that
sure.
actually makes the model very interesting, even at low utilization rates.
Okay. Well, we would have to set up an infrastructure for packages, and my concern is that porch pirates would really love us to go to overnight deliveries. Thoughts on that?
Well, that's easily solved. You just have a bot guarding every house.
Well, I like to limit my speculation to a couple of things that don't exist yet today um, because if you get into like Dyson, their car that they wanted to build, for that matter, Apple, their car they wanted to build, it relied on several technologies that were not mature yet. And if any one of them failed, the whole thing failed. That's a
Yeah,
risky move. SpaceX did that with Starlink. We need to have more satellites than have ever been made at a scale that's never been made on rockets that are cheaper than ever and reusable. And if any part of this fails, Starlink constellation will not be profitable. But they, managed to get it done.
yeah. Just before we leave that slide there, so AJ mentioned about the cybercab fleet being parked at night, and basically the cost advantage of nighttime deliveries would help reduce the daytime traffic. And Elon, when he was going by the name Gorklan Rust, said exactly to that. So packages, I think, is coming at some point. The question is when.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, and I had a comment, someone saying, "Boy, if Jeff Bezos finds out about this, he's gonna lose his mind." I'm like, I think first of all, Jeff Bezos doesn't work at Amazon, but, if Amazon when this is mature, Amazon will use it too. Everyone will use it.
that's right.
Amazon uses absolutely everyone who can move a package affordably.
That's right.
So, tell me about this utilization, chart here.
Yeah, so this is something important to add because people throw out utilization rates, 30% up to 65%, let's say, right? And it's important to keep in mind just how many hours a day that is. So, for example, on the left, 30% utilization is 7.2 hours a day. And
Mhm.
that leaves that dark section there above the blue bar as downtime. And so the question is, what else can cybercabs be used for during that downtime besides just charging and cleaning, right? So there's two things that come to mind. One is distributed inference. You can use
Yep,
the
yep.
powerful AI chip for something, right? And if you combine millions of robotaxis together, that's a pretty powerful supercomputer. And
Little
then
bit.
secondly, could you use the vehicles for something else? And this is the idea behind package delivery. So just again want to mention that I think it's important to realize that there's a significant opportunity here to use cybercabs for multi-purposes.
So then we're talking about, utilization with packages, which is basically this chart plus another set of colored bars representing some amount of package delivery. Very straightforward.
Correct. And what you see instantly with this chart is that at low utilizations, that allows you to use quite a bit of time for package delivery. Also, there's still plenty of downtime. We're only using half of that downtime, original downtime of over 16 hours a day for package delivery. The other half is still downtime. But you can see then that the total utilization, the yellow plus the blue bars, is more uniform across. It rises a little bit as we go from 30% to 65%,
Mhm.
but the package delivery part is utilizing a good portion of that unused time on the left side there. So
Yes.
it improves overall utilization.
More Having more time available means it's easier to schedule something into that time.
Yeah.
Uh, Tesla
And then
Robotaxi, yes.
Yeah, sorry, on this next chart, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of you here,
Okay.
but this chart shows the number of trips and miles per day,
Mhm.
um, in terms of what that would work out to. So at 30% utilization, you're looking at 164 miles a day for passengers and about 20 trips. Again, depending on your assumptions for trip length and speed of travel and that kind of thing.
Where did your assumptions come from?
I believe I had, I think, 25 miles an hour, and the average trip
Oh,
length, I think was like 3 miles or something like that. It was fairly short.
mm. So I would this is the first place where I would push back. I think this lowest number of 19.6 trips per day is very high. I don't think that's a low number. I think that's a medium to high number. And 42 and a half trips a day, I think, is bordering on impossible, even in Manhattan. And it's certainly impossible across the fleet. I've seen people say, yeah, but I know a company that runs cars 24 hours a day. I go, yeah, but how many? What percentage are running at 4 in the morning? Some, not all. It gets tricky. That's why it's so beneficial to charge during those hours. And also power rates are probably lower then. Uh, Tesla Robotaxi Network passenger plus delivery. Okay. And this is, again, when you get into delivery logistics, it becomes more algorithm driven. I think packages are a lot more consistent than people across days of the week.
The beautiful thing about packages is you can bunch them up,
Yeah.
right? With people, it's typically one person at a time unless you're sharing, but let's just assume they're not.
Mhm.
So for the people part of this model, I've assumed that if it's a 5 mile average trip length, then the reposition distance is about 3.3 miles.
Mhm.
So there's some deadhead miles in there. Now, the good news with that is if you've got packages, you might actually be able to use some of those miles potentially productively.
Mm.
But at the very least, if you've got a vehicle that has some packages in it, they may not need to be delivered right now. You could take a person if that person's close by and then
Right.
deliver those packages, later
It's
potentially.
like Uber Pool. I know people who have used it, but I know it's not super popular in very
Yep.
many markets. Um, Potential
Now,
rev. Yes.
yeah, so this slide, sorry, I keep interrupting you as you go to describe the slide, but this slide is showing you the revenue components, and the largest portion of this is the trips revenue, and uh, the other bars on here show the other potential revenue sources, but not really sized, I think, to what they could be. I'm just sort of showing them on here to say, hey, these exist. Let's not forget that there could be advertising revenue. Let's not forget that there could be entertainment and connectivity revenue, distributed inference revenue, and then what I call curated experiences. If you're traveling in a new city, that FSD could act as a tour guide essentially. Or if you wanted to do a restaurant tour or a bar hopping tour, the vehicle could be that tour guide for you.
Yes, and, what an amazing tour guide it would be when you get a driving tour. It says, "What do you wanna see? Do you wanna see homes? Do you wanna see churches? Do you wanna see history?" And you click on homes and "This one's boring, skip this one, go to the next one. Can you show me more modern stuff?" There's a lot of opportunity, but I think your biggest understatement on here is the potential for distributed, inference. We don't know what that market will be, but I would be surprised if it's not something that they want to tap into in a profitable way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this chart's showing the same thing, but if you add on delivery services.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
some assumptions about that. And so you can see here that at low levels of utilization for passenger revenue, that allows more time for deliveries. And again, it brings up that revenue curve. So instead of the vehicles earning 60,000 at a 30% utilization, you might take it to $100,000 a year in revenue.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right, and at the most utilization, you've got 65% utilization, where the revenue for passenger fares is like 100,000, and you
Mm.
get a little bit of extra for delivery. So the difference between now a low utilized vehicle, 30%, versus a higher one at 65% isn't that much different anymore
Mhm.
from a revenue perspective, if you can utilize the vehicle for these other things.
So what I hear you saying is that in your modeling, at worst, there is 100,000 revenue potential per year per vehicle.
Yes, and that's assuming from a passenger fare, it's a base fare of $1 a mile. base fare of it $1 and a cost per mile of $1 per mile,
Okay. Uh,
okay?
yeah.
So that's the blue bars,
Mhm.
okay? The, um, the delivery services part, um, it's a little bit of a shot in the dark in terms of what Tesla would be able to earn for delivering so many packages, but I think those numbers are reasonable.
How many miles a year are you thinking the Cybercab is going to move with passengers? Is it back up on this
Um
chart where you said
Yeah,
18
you'd have
trips
to
a
run the
day?
math, but essentially at 30% utilization, it's about 60,000 miles a year, and at, 65% utilization, you're looking at about 129, 130,000 miles a year.
And are those paid miles or do they include the deadhead
Total
miles?
That's total miles,
Mhm,
and again, about 40% of those total miles are unpaid miles,
mhm,
deadhead miles, is
mhm,
my assumption.
mhm. I think, I do think these numbers are too optimistic. I don't think there's enough, peak hours in the day. Certainly, you could have vehicles that would do it, but they would not be the average. The average, I think, would be quite a bit lower than that. So I will tell you now that that is one area where I will disagree with you on uh, how how I've run my numbers.
Yeah,
Talk to
just on that
yes,
point, Brian,
yes.
I have discussed this with a number of Uber drivers, and of course, it depends on what market you're in. But the feedback from them was that my assumptions for the number of rides in a certain period of time was not out of line.
Hmm.
Now, of course, not every market is, New York or Chicago or San Francisco or whatever. So I recognize that in different markets, the pace of the number of rides might be a lot lower.
Hmm. And if obviously the weekend of South by Southwest, you're going to have a lot more
Yeah.
fares and probably short ones, but tough to say. It's I would want to see the high level data rather than because you can talk to drivers who have a variety of experience that may not always be representative of the greater picture. So looking at this here, tell me what we're looking at.
So this is just sort of behind the scenes of the model, looking at the different utilization rates,
Hmm.
what the costs are.
Right.
Now, if we work out from the bottom, I've got FSD cost. If we're including package delivery, this is the wrong term. This is the cost of Optimus to do the last few
See,
yards of delivery.
I see.
So $10,000 for Optimus to ride along and deliver the package from the vehicle to the doorstep. Okay. That's included. That's if we're factoring package delivery. Otherwise, you've got the vehicle costs of about $9,000 a year. Of course, a higher utilization, you're going to wear those vehicles out faster, so those costs are higher, and so on. Charging costs, cleaning, parking, insurance, marketing,
Right.
payment processing, etc. There's a whole bunch of charges in here.
Right. And I wanted
Tires
to go through
maintenance is a big
those.
one.
I wanted
Okay.
to go through those. First of all, I have not seen very many models that include the payment processing. That is a real cost. That is immutable. That is something that everyone has to deal with. Um, and it's why many restaurants give you a cash discount, or just add 1 to 3% onto your bill if you're using a card. Payment processing costs money. Um, EV taxes and other. So that's like your car tabs, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's just sort of saying that as we move to an all EV world, we're going to have to replace the gasoline tax with something. And some states have already done this.
Hmm. And I
And
think
just building it.
this number is reasonable, um, because it's a lightweight vehicle. We're not talking about dump trucks. We're talking about small vehicles. Tires and maintenance. I assume that number you're using is including the maintenance on the bots.
The maintenance on the bots is sort of separate. So this $10,000 bot cost is sort of the cost for Tesla's robotaxi division to pay Tesla's Optimus division
Sure,
10,000 a year. So
sure,
it's kind of an intercompany transfer. It's kind of not
sure, sure.
relevant, but if you're just looking at robotaxi, it is relevant.
But on the tires and maintenance at 7,500, um,
Yep. I'm
tire.
assuming that cost for all four tires is $3,000, and maybe that's high for a Cybercab, and that you need to replace them every 60,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's just basically driven based on how many miles the vehicle's traveling. So as you can see there, as you go across, that cost goes up as the mileage increases.
Mm-hmm. What is other operating costs? Uh, what is
Just
that?
a plug for other things I haven't considered, 600
Sure,
bucks.
sure.
Yep.
My concern on that is that we know that Uber was taking basically half the fare when the fares were $3 and they still weren't showing a profit. And yes, a lot of that was marketing, but a lot of it was just business is expensive. Doing business costs a lot of money. Uh, on insurance at 1,500, I would argue that's too low, but not by a consequential amount. Um, Parking at 600, parking will be an interesting one because it's not a parking spot that you need. It's probably a depot that you need. You're certainly going to need locations, and figuring out how to balance that cost that might be a bit low. Um, I did want to say on cleaning, I've seen too many people who say, "Nope, the cleaning is free." I go, "Cleaning's not free." No, I'll clean it myself. I'm like, "Great, I'll bring mine by and you can clean it for me." Because when you've got 30, you can't. And now you're a janitor. That's your
Yeah.
job. Uh, and cleaning, I think, can come down over time. But I think in the beginning, you need to be realistic about it. Uh, Charging, um, your numbers don't seem too crazy. What were you doing? 5 miles to the kilowatt and what, 10
I've got a
cents?
40 kilowatt battery, and I've got 10 cents per kilowatt hour for Tesla, and
Hmm.
I've got a range of 300 miles per vehicle. So again, it's just a function of the mileage.
Hmm. Yeah, that's not unreasonable. Um, there are going to be a lot of deployment costs. Building new chargers for the first time, deploying all those wireless pads. Those obviously will save money over time, but out of the gate, I see them not necessarily. I mean, it's an upfront expense you have to do. Um, in terms of the financing cost at zero, I mean, money costs money. Even if it's your money, it's money you can't be using for something else. Uh, so, how
Yeah,
confident? Yeah.
the way I did this, Brian, is that I've got a cost per vehicle of $20,000,
Mm.
right? And so, uh, because the revenue here is, north of 100,000 across the board, you're able to pay off that vehicle very quickly. So the
I
financing
see.
cost is not really consequential.
Because you're right. Because we're talking months of it rather than
Yeah.
years of it.
And I'm assuming, by the way, that the expected useful life of these vehicles is only 300,000 miles. So
Mhm.
that's why you're seeing about $9,000 a year. Basically, they last a couple of years and then you're done.
Now,
I
if
think
I
that's pretty conservative.
would you how what is the lifespan you said again, please?
300,000 miles.
I think so. I've had too many people tell me, no, they're going to be 500, a million. And I say, that's not something you can confidently say today. I think getting to 300,000 on something with minimal moving parts and easy repairs is quite doable. But you will reach a point where the airframe needs to be retired. And we see that in aviation, but this is, uh, and I think that the costs that you put in for uh, tires and maintenance, I think that's high enough to cover a lot of the uh, latch mechanism replacements, the broken adjuster for the seat, those things. And by the way, the seats do adjust a little bit. They have to for NHTSA reasons so that a passenger can be appropriately spaced from the airbags. Uh, there's still a lot of misconceptions about what the vehicle is out there. Now you put down a line item vehicle cost at 9,000, and that's based on the total cost divided by when it's going to expire. Is that
Essentially,
depreciation?
it's the $20,000 cost for Tesla to make the vehicle and the 3,000 mile useful life. And so that's it's a function then of the number of miles per year.
Right.
Um, drives that.
300,000, right?
Yeah. 300,000 miles. Yeah. Um, the one thing we didn't discuss here as we went through this was the marketing costs. And I've got marketing costs simply at 5% of the revenue. Right, so you can see marketing costs scaling up as the revenue goes up. Now, that's kind of a weird way to do it, but it kinda is a bit of a plug. It kinda makes the model more conservative. I don't know if Tesla's going to spend much of anything on marketing robotaxi. They may not need to.
Right.
So you could apply those dollars as just saying, well, that makes this model more conservative if you think that Tesla's not going to market much. Now, the one criticism I think you could throw at this too is that we haven't really taken into account the costs of monitors,
Correct.
right? There's going to be some people at a, central facility somewhere monitoring these vehicles, and the question is how many can one person monitor and what's the cost?
Right.
So, you can pull that out of the marketing budget here. Either way, let's say I'm off by, 5 or $10,000. Well, just reduce the gross profit number, which is on the first line. Reduce those numbers by 5 or $10,000 and, and then that's where we're at with that.
Hmm. I would argue that these numbers are too optimistic, and that the biggest uh, missing pieces are, I think, the paid miles that a vehicle is going to be able to operate is a lot lower than your model assumes, and I think the biggest missing chunk is operation cost. Just if Uber was making a buck 50 gross per mile over and above what they were paying out to the driver, and they still weren't making money. But I have a lot of questions about Uber, and I think Uber is uh, a brilliant idea, terribly executed, and they've got a pile of flaws so big that it's almost embarrassing to try to tackle it. Uh, so
Yeah, and
yes,
I would also say, Brian, that keep in mind that this is a unit economic model, unit economic cost model. So I'm not suggesting this is the economics for Tesla on day one.
no, definitely
That
not on day one. We know production costs won't be under 50 for the first however many models. You got to get there. Uh,
yeah. So this is at some point in time, and I haven't defined that, but at some point in time when you've got some scale, in my view, this is how the model could look at various utilization rates.
mhm,
The number of trips and the number of miles and so on is purely driven based on the trip length, the speed of travel, and the sort of what I call reposition distance or the deadhead miles. It's
right,
purely a function of that, right? And so at 30% utilization, again, the vehicle downtime is 16.8 hours a day.
right.
Now, clearly, the demand for travel isn't uniform through the day. There's peaks and valleys, right? So we have to take that into account. But the model is just simply a function of those parameters, and it calculates the number of trips and the distance traveled.
Mhm. So if Tesla can get their cost in house down to 25 cents, what does that mean I could get my cost down to? Because if I'm going to be using Tesla's network, they're obviously going to want to take a cut of my fares that are out there, right?
Yeah. One of the things that I have talked about is that I think eventually there's an opportunity perhaps for the consumer of robotaxi to not pay anything for the trip. Is
Mhm.
that if you're willing to subject yourself to advertising, that might be enough to cover the cost to the consumer.
Mhm.
Now, that may be a long ways off, but I do see some potential for that. If you don't want to pay for advertising, then yes, you're gonna pay. But that could be an interesting option for people, is to say, "Well, okay, I can travel for free if I watch all these ads." Would Tesla do that? I don't know.
I
It's an interesting way to sort of parse out the market for people that are very price sensitive and don't really wanna pay, for the cost of the robotaxi.
I think it would be interesting to say, um, try CJ's Pub. We'll give you a free ride. Here's the ad. The ad says, "Come take a free ride." That'd be an interesting one, because that if they know where you're located, they know you're a $3 fare away. Let's get this customer in the door. I think it'd be interesting.
Right.
But I think that I do. I don't see the amount of money in the model that I know you and others do, and I'm still dealing with a lot of people who are saying, "No, no, I'm going to get rid of my car. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm only going to travel by cybercab, and I'll do it as soon as it hits 30 cents a mile." I'm like, "Oh, ooh, okay." I don't, I don't, I don't think the cost to you is going to hit 30 cents a mile. Uh, it is too low.
Yeah, I think it'll take some time to get down there, and certainly it doesn't need to right now, right?
Nope.
If rideshare is that much higher, you don't need to undercut them too much to destroy rideshare. It's just a question of then once you have the scale, how quickly do you want to destroy car ownership?
Yeah.
And then at that point, you have to get the cost below, 70 cents, 60 cents, 50 cents a mile in order for that to start happening.
It'll create a change in the world that you won't notice right away. 20, 25 years ago when I was in China, uh, power lines were running in all directions all the time. And now they're not. They run in alleys a bit. And even then, they use canals, little, like not conduits, but like trays that run the wires. So you don't see them as much. It's a little thing. I could see a day in the future where if you compare a photograph, you go, look, there's almost nobody parked on this street and only a couple of cars running. Where's all the well, they're not here. Why would you want them here? Why would you want a bunch of cars sitting next to the lake? Do the cars enjoy looking at the sunset? Maybe. So, guys, I'm gonna have Cern back. We're gonna be talking tomorrow or the next day about restaurants, about the diner. What a crazy idea that is! Because I've got some fun ideas, some fun thoughts, and Cern is kind enough to play my reindeer games. Guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Leave it, I beg of you. You can head over, have Cern's contact info in the description below, but he's on X. He's got a YouTube channel now, so we can check that out. Everybody else, stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the next one.